So good evening to everyone from the Consulate General of Italy in San Francisco, and welcome to this 2022 edition of the Italian Design Day. Tonight, we are very happy to have with us two distinguished guests, architect Elena Pacenti and Roberto Tagliabue, who will offer their perspective on the link between design, innovation, and sustainability. They will be happy to answer to your questions, of course, at the end of their dialogue. Before giving the floor to Consul General of Italy in San Francisco, Sergio Strozzi, for some introductory remarks, we would like to show you a short video about Salone del Mobile, which is the most important event about interior design in Italy and which will be held next June in Milan. Stay with us.
Quest'anno il Salone celebra la sua 60ª edizione. È passato tanto tempo da quel 1961, quando aprì per la prima volta le sue porte. Tanto è cambiato, da una fiera commerciale è diventato un grande evento, ma anche un crocevia in cui un'intera design community si ritrova da tutto il mondo e lo fa per scoprire le nuove tendenze del settore dell'arredamento. Questa edizione è molto importante, con il Salone Internazionale del Mobile, del complemento dell'arredo, ma anche delle biennali di Eurocucina, FTK e il Salone Internazionale del Bagno. Abbiamo però deciso di dedicare uno spazio importante alla sostenibilità. Ci sarà un evento speciale al centro del Salone che sarà un momento di riflessione su a che punto è il settore, a dove sta andando e come la scelta dell'arredo della casa può influenzare positivamente questa transizione ecologica.
La sostenibilità è diventato uno degli elementi fondamentali per l'architettura e non solo per l'architettura, perché il tema oggi è quello di come possiamo vivere meglio su questo pianeta e come possiamo utilizzare meglio le risorse. Stiamo affrontando un problema che non avevamo prima. Il Salone quest'anno cerca di dare una risposta facendo vedere un ecosistema di aziende che si stanno impegnando in maniera molto determinata a produrre attraverso processi per la riduzione dell'impronta ambientale. Poi ovviamente questo tema deve essere accompagnato da una visione poetica. Se associamo questa nuova strada anche alla bellezza, abbiamo comunque fatto un percorso molto importante che sarà probabilmente anche l'unico percorso che possiamo fare.
I risultati raggiunti dal 2021 rispetto al 2019 sono stati veramente straordinari. Abbiamo segnato un 7,7% in più di export. Questo dimostra che la forza del design del Made in Italy sono accompagnati anche dalla capacità costruttiva che è indubbia ed è una delle fonti fondamentali del nostro successo a livello mondiale.
Il Salone quest'anno sarà nel mese di giugno. Abbiamo scelto di spostarlo proprio per garantire la massima sicurezza per tutti coloro che parteciperanno a questo grande evento. Pensiamo che sia molto importante questo spostamento per garantire l'accesso a quel pubblico internazionale che ha reso grande il Salone del Mobile e il Made in Italy nel mondo. Chi non sarà presente fisicamente potrà vedere tutto quello che succederà al Salone e una volta chiuso il sipario sarà possibile continuare a vedere gli stand, le novità di prodotto, rimanere in contatto con le aziende proprio attraverso la piattaforma digitale del Salone del Mobile.
Il Salone del Mobile è fondamentale per il Made in Italy. Il nostro settore è riuscito a creare in 60 anni di storia la forza del nostro comparto che viene riconosciuta in tutto il mondo. È una vetrina irrinunciabile sulla quale noi produttori dovremmo assolutamente farne uso e buon uso per il nostro futuro.
Okay, then I hope everyone could see that Salone del Mobile will be held from 7 to 22nd of June. We will make sure that the video is posted on our social media so you can enjoy it properly. I will then now give the floor to Consul General of Italy in San Francisco, Sergio Strozzi, for his introductory remarks. Please, Sergio.
Thank you very much, Fabio. And first of all, let me thank you as my deputy for moderating this great event. Why is the Italian Design Day so important for the Italian government? Because design and furniture is a key feature of the Italian economy. I just give you some data. In Italy, there are around 30,000 businesses dealing in the furniture and design sector, not counting obviously the designers and all the professionals who work in this important economic field. Design and furniture represent around 5% of the Italian GDP, according to official data. And talking about export, the export of the Italian design and furniture sector in the last 3 years has been 22 billion euro per year. So Italian design and Italian furniture for Italy and Italian economy is a real driver for economy and exports and economic growth. That's why the Italian government attaches great importance to the Italian Design Day to promote our main features abroad. And it's very important that the United States market knows better and better the Italian design and can, get acquainted with our products, designers, architectural stars, and that's why this is the reason why we are celebrating the Italian Design Day. Let me, in the second stage, thank Elena Pacenti and Roberto Tagliabue, who are two very successful Italian architects and designers. And talking about export, the other thing Italy always does is to export its talents and its geniuses. And I can say that Elena Pacenti and Roberto Tagliabue, in two different ways, let's say, being both of them architects and designers, are great ambassadors of Italian design abroad, which is very important because having Italian designers abroad means more possibility to export and promote our sector in design and furniture. And last but not least, I would like to thank Anna Maria Di Giorgio, who is the director of the Italian Cultural Institute in San Francisco, for co-hosting this event. The Italian Cultural Institute is our partner, as always, as institutional government offices, both of us. And we are very proud to do this Italian design together with Anna Maria and our distinguished guest. I'll give back the floor to Fabio to give it, to turn it to our speakers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sergio, for your introductory remarks. Probably the best way to start our dialogue with our two guests is to understand from them how they arrived on the West Coast and how do they see the relationship from a design point of view between the West Coast and Italy. I don't know who wants to start, maybe Elena?
I can start, and well, thank you for having us and for the invite. Honored to be here. My name is Elena Pacenti, and in this group we pronounce it right, while still there are some issues in pronunciation, especially in proximity to Mexico, because I live in San Diego, so I am normally Elena. So how did I arrive here? It's a quite a long journey, but I hope an interesting one. I studied architecture originally and continued my studies in design at Politecnico di Milano. And during my PhD, I already explored the design field and some innovative research at that time under the mentorship of Ezio Manzini. And then I joined Domus Academy in middle 90s. And at that point, we were lucky to, at the research center at Domus Academy, to start a group of international European co-founded research projects that were actually opening up to the role of new technologies to a new application of new media and technologies, in particular for communication. That was before everything that we know today. So that was before internet as was used today, that was before the smartphones and this new life that we live in. And I continued in Domus Academy for many years at the research center, and then in the master, in the education part. And when I was the head of design there, the Domus became part of a bigger group owned by Americans, and they started having little universities around the globe, and just few of them specialized, boutique schools specialized in design. And so one of these was in San Diego, New School of Architecture and Design. And so they asked me if I wanted to come over and establish the School of Design from scratch. These universities had just architecture, and they asked me to start all the design programs. And so I did. So in 2013, I moved to San Diego without knowing anything about San Diego. I've been in San Francisco, but never down here. And it's been a very successful journey so far. I was supposed to stay a couple of years, and yet I am here 8 years and a half later, because I get passionate about design. Design is the reason why I am here. And, you know, trying to really build up design in higher education in US, where the system is slightly different, much more specialized than in Italy, where everything is much more interconnected, from architecture to new media. And also being a voice, like you said, being a voice of Italian design and design culture, let's say. I've been very active in the community. San Diego Tijuana just won the nomination for Next World Design Capital 2024. So that's thanks to a group of many designers active here that really worked across disciplines, across industries to make this happen. And also I've been actually part of the first edition of the Italian Design Days in LA, at that time with the consul Antonio Verde and all the Italian Institute, called all the team there. And it's been an honor, obviously, and much fun to have to bring the word of the approach of Italian design and our culture here. I stop, otherwise I use all the time.
Please, Roberto, then tell us how you ended up on the West Coast from Italy.
The West Coast, yeah. Thank you. It's an honor to be here. And also, it's an honor to be here with Elena, because our story, if we start all the way back, was like finding ourselves sitting on the same seat of a train going up to the Lake Como, Elena from Erba, and me from Cantu, right? And there exchanging some ideas. We were all like frequenting architecture in Milan. And then we ended up also to do the same things, as like to meet ourselves at Domus, as Elena was saying, at Domus Academy, right? Venturing in all this space that was coming out, right? Like as Elena was saying, like all this new technology, we were dreaming with, and we were designing already with the European community funds and projects about like cities, how we will travel with city with these little devices in our hand to give information, to discover the new restaurant. Today looks like, looks like ages ago, 3 or 4 lives ago, right? But it's kind of interesting how everything happened. And I think like, so how I found, what is the connection, right? It's like we talked about the design and the chair and the furniture, and then we are on the West Coast here and we talk about technology, right? It's like, the thing is like, if I have to go back, I have to say that it's like during those years with Elena, we were like hearing the first voices of internet, right? I was trying to create, or at least in my mind, there was this connection, right? When I say like, what does it really mean to be a designer? And what does it really mean to do architecture? At the end, I was thinking like, wow, if you really think about it, we design the space of the relation where people meet, right? It's like we are orchestrating those emotions when we design a chair or when we design a couch, right? How people sit down. Do you want them to feel comfortable, uncomfortable? Do you want them to stay there longer time or lesser time? What is the vibe of the environment, right? And those are all the elements, is like what comes out from the discipline in Italy, right? We were, with Elena, we were lucky enough probably to be the last of the last year to be taught at the university and even at Domus by the master, right? We had the master of the design, right? If you talk about Sozzas, Embranzi, Gaolenti, Castiglioni, they were like really the first year in their things. Like we were lucky enough also when we start this experience inside Domus to be, again, to actually, to collect all their thoughts, probably, or like almost like the last interviews of them in something they become from for the Domus Editoriale, the design. It was the first interactive media that we'd probably design in Italy, right? It was like collecting all the thoughts about the design, But when we start to see this one here, when I say this one here, what is the connection between the two? We say like, wow, we started to see all this explosion of new technology and new experiences and new non-material spaces, and we start to figure out, wow, those guys, they need us a lot, because at the end, if you think about it, what technology does, what this instrument, also the one that you were using today, is connecting people to things, connecting people between the two of them. And there is this aspect, like when we were back there, and then still today became my everyday job here in San Francisco. It's like exactly the designing the moment of how you connect people, what you want them to feel, right? Orchestrate the way that you go step by step, even screen by screen, that you connect. What are all those feelings there? And those are very, very important, because otherwise everything remains about, I mean, you think about it, going the design and remove and make the most, or going design in fashion. Sometimes like it's an interesting talk that I have when I work here. We start in San Francisco, which you say you cannot explain why fashion design or Italian luxury fashion design, you can sell a pair of shoes for thousands of dollars, and if you really look from a point of view of functionality, it's probably the most uncomfortable shoes ever. It's bad for your back, it's bad for your feet, but makes that woman and makes that man feel special, right? Feels like incredible. The emotion that you orchestrate over there, they're like priceless, right? And something, again, is something that we're trying to, is like if software is just left in that area there, it's not just about executing things. Right now, we find our match on, and we find our partners online, we pay our bank, we find our next holiday, and it's very, very interesting. It's very, very important to have the point of view of the design, right? In designing all the elements of this journey in the thing. So I ended up in this journey, long journey from Italy all the way across the United States, in big company, smaller company. I've been lucky enough to be part of Nike, to be part of Motorola, to come here in the Bay Area, be part of like emerging and booming startup, going through the crazy roller coaster, going all the way to the stars, all the way down to the to the canteen, right? And then is like. And this is like what brought me us right now. We are 6 years open here. We have a consultancy and a powerhouse creative team. We have a beautiful office here in San Francisco, in North Beach. We wanted to be here also where is all the Italianity of the area. And this is where we are, right? So like right now we find ourselves in reconnecting back also with Italy, right? So in some way, just like to do like this like crazy shortcut of bringing Italian design to the West Coast and working with a tech company. But right now it's kind of like the way that we picture ourselves, very Italian and very inside the food. We say it's like we like to be in San Francisco because it's a kind of like it's the freshest farmers market in terms of business model, the way of, you know, every day there is a new company that try to disrupt the things, and this is an incredible way of thinking. It give us like food thoughts, right? To just like to keep reinventing it. So here, and the same day we bring him back to the Italian company and say it's like, oh, here it's like, and the way that we operate is a kind of like we are the chef in the kitchen, right? We try to get some fresh ingredients over here and we stitch it up and we just cook it for global product, a global experience, and global brands.
Thank you, Roberto. We can see, I think the audience can see the passion about the whole experience you have had from Italy to here, and I think that's great. I would probably pose a question to Elena, since she is lucky enough to teach to younger generations about design. So just what's your perception of the young generation's perception here about design, and especially about Italian design? What do you take out of your lessons with the younger ones?
Thank you, Fabio. You know, teaching is very hard job. So let me put it this way. I started this whole adventure by really trying to transfer, no matter what is the device, not what is the program or the details, but to transfer not just the tools to design and the process, which is so important in US, in America, right? It's all about the process and how we do things. What I'm trying to transfer is more the mindset. And because design, as I said earlier, in my opinion, is a culture, is not longer a one discipline, is many disciplines that are evolving every day. So it's not easy to maintain, you know, the student relevant in the market. So there is not such a thing like giving tools and having them ready for being out there. It's more like transferring a mindset. So, well, I've been lucky enough to work with Italy. So I have been literally sent my students to Italy for a quarter abroad, enough to understand what it is, Italian design, and where it comes from. But out of the joke, I think that the perception is obviously not just in the younger generation or in the students. Some of them don't even have an idea, okay, just to be honest with you. So it's our job to really transfer not only the best of design as a way of thinking and as a discipline, but also what is the background of the many cultures of design. So I definitely transfer it every time we do design in a design school. But I think that in general, the perception of Italian design is still primarily linked to this sector that we named earlier. So furniture, automotive, obviously the big brands, right? So the perception of Italian design is this luxury, very expensive, very well done, beautiful objects that we were able to create and export all over the world. And it's great because we are recognized still, like Sergio Strozzi said earlier, we are still recognized as one of the place where we can still produce and export this beautiful object, hopefully last for a life. So we are also sustainable intrinsically. But the aspect that is not as much known as this is probably what's behind the culture and at the core of the Italian design culture, which is something that is linked to the idea of, deeply linked to the idea of envisioning, of creating worlds that not yet exist, and to really think about what is next for human beings and society. So some time ago, I think it was right before the pandemic hit, I gave a speech in a conference in Japan, and I decided to title the keynote speech project, to remind our friends, that was a design conference, so all specialists, let's say, to remind ourselves that the profound difference between our design culture, Italian, and the Anglo-Saxon design culture, just starting from the words. So design is this word that now means pretty much everything, right? Almost is also so stretched out that now everyone designs, but also an engineer designs it. So it's more like a verb than actually a real discipline or approach. If you think about our word is progetto in Italian, so it's progettare, è la cultura della progettazione. So the very root of progetto as a noun and progettare as a verb is to project, it's proiacere from Latin, which means throwing ahead, which means project, which means thinking ahead of time. So it's really linked to envisioning. And it's so fascinating because we never had, as an Italian, in the Italian culture, the notion of problem solving. It's so functional. It's so engineeristic in a way, right? We were always problem setting people. We were setting that, we were trying to understand what's the problem. And inherently we think about what's the problem itself and the society and the humans. So it's very fascinating because not many people know that at the core of Italian design, there is always been this research of anticipating the needs of society, projecting ideas of society, projecting ideas of future. It's evident from the avant-garde and the radical movements that were, the reaction to functionalism and rationalism. And the point there was with Memphis, with all these phenomena was, wait, are we really gonna live all in a machine habité, or are we human beings? We need emotions, we need to understand how to connect to the built environment, right? What is the built environment? So this projection of the futures, cars that are not cars, that look like the self-driving cars nowadays. Anyway, so this is the real engine or driver of Italian design and designers. So this ability of really projecting ahead, this interest for society, not just for industry. There is a quote of Sotsas that I really like that says, design has nothing to do with the relationship between industry and designers. Design is trying to project a possible relationship between industry and society. So that's always been the case. When Sotsas was working with Adriano Olivetti, was anticipating the need of people working differently when he designed the Valentine. And there are many examples that we can bring. But if you think carefully, all the innovation that come from this need of producing something that is meaningful for people and for society at large. And it's evident in the work of the designers. It's visible in it happened in the research centers, Politecnico, Domus, many other schools that I can't name all, where places where pioneering research has been done. And not many people know that we opened up many fields of design. But also in the industry, from Olivetti, which I consider our Steve Jobs, it happened just a few decades before, these industries still have the power of innovating with quality and beauty. So I'm really I really think that at the core of our culture, there is this unique ability of innovating and innovating through beauty, which is not just aesthetics, it's just what makes sense to people. So I'm not surprised to find Italian designers all over the world working and trying to connect the dots between the specialistic disciplines and this way and approach and way of thinking. And if you think, and I close, what is now really the conversation in design after these all years of design thinking and human-centered design, what is now, hot is really the relationship, the meaning for human beings and for the planet. So these themes are in a way embedded in our idea as Italians of what design can do.
Thank you, Elena. That was very insightful. I think that just taking from your last idea, the Italian Design Day of 2022 this year would like to explore the connection between design and sustainability. So here we are talking probably about not the usual meaning that we give to sustainability, which is related to environment, but we are thinking more probably about the social sustainability and the fact that design can help the human being and people live better together in the same space. Starting from this, I would like to ask to Roberto how he sees all of it, considering he has been working in the tech industry for many years. And so how tech can help people living together and in connection with the fact that every technological product has to have a certain design right now. Thank you, Roberto.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and thank you, Elena. I was like, wow. Almost I clapped on my side listening to your things. No, it's very important to remind, exactly as I said, to project all the things. And here is like at the frontier where we are, right? Is called like the frontier. This like young. The West Coast is still like a young place, right? And then there's like all this spirit of pioneer and trying new things. This is exactly the place where nowhere else is like I think I found that there is the need to project, right? Because it's kind of like when two people, I love the energy that you find here, right? When two people, normally like someone really good at software or someone with a really brilliant idea about the business, they just get together before starting all the pieces. There is always this need, right? To just like to envision, to project us like, what can we be, right? What can we be in 1 year, in 3 years, in 5 years, right? And this is what is happening normally in the technology. And with the aspect of the sustainability, right? Even in this one year, I always see, and probably some of the people in the audience share these things here, like inside the industry and everything. It's been always the role of the design to carry the flag of the sustainability to the environment, right? To always make sure in our back of the mind, like whether it's a digital product, is a digital product that probably facilitate or reduce the waste in terms of like, transportation of the product on one side or the other side, or like reducing, again, reducing the time wasted by the people in traveling around to try to get their own goods, right? Also to go, and I'll explain a little bit, like in some of the projects we do, like in some of the things, like the need, and we saw that this acceleration that everyone had to forcefully being exposed during the COVID, right, to stay at home and use the digital technology, they opened up other new behavior, right? And also how design can help to sustain this behavior. It's like, you really need to go to the doctor, right? And then take everything in the car with everyone sick to go to the doctor. If you think about it, in some processes, in some of those relationships, if you really think about it, stop, and this is normally the work that Elena was doing, of the designer, right? You stop a second and say, but does it make any sense, right? We always did this on here. If you think about it, like, again, especially if you go, one of the areas that we work a lot here is just like with digital health. There's all this new technology, all this new company and startup that comes out and try to, in some way, to finally modernize something that to me is still very archaic, right? The things of like, we know very little about our body. If you think about it, today, it's to me still crazy, right? That the moment you feel the sickest, that your body is already sick, you have to jump in a car and go and sit in a room with other people that are really sick to go to a doctor, and from that point on, starting to investigate what's wrong with you, right? If you think about it, it's completely like a Stone Age, right? It's kind of like, wow, this is the unhealthiest things that has been done as a process, right? And how much also when you think about that one and you deconstruct it and you project it forward, it's like, how can we make it better, right? It's like, how can we help someone that from home with digital technology, or even in some way reverting what we're doing with some startups over here, reverting the process in which you say, wow, we always talk about like, preventive medicine, right? And in the designing of this year, how can we have, right now we have Apple Watches to our wrist, there is other new devices that are coming out, right? That can anticipate, even your car knows before your mechanics and before you, if it's gonna go overeat or missing the hull. We do not know, right, about our body. It is crazy. We only have one body. We can change our car, we can change our computer. We have only one body, and we do not know until we get really sick why we're getting sick, right? And so right now we have the work that we do with technology, again, with the same design, is trying to exactly, and working close to close, the things that I love, this one, like how the design expanded, or our profession changed from sitting down with an industry and understanding how better bend the wood to make a beautiful chair, right? Right now we're sitting down with psychologists, and we're sitting down with like crazy technologists that understand the microprocessor, and with doctor and expert in trying to put together this like new devices that can help you like live better, right, or anticipate all your things, right? So in some way, like, and at the same, if I go on the other side, right, some of the work that we're doing, just like even like, it's not only like the physicality of the things, but also it's like we all know like how tired we are after 2.5 years of Zoom calls, right? The important also the sustainability from my point of view is like, okay, of our life is like, it's like when you say like, it's like, can we keep going, right? We know in sometimes also I feel really responsible being part of this entire world with Motorola and other things. It's like how much also we say, it's like, wow, we envision, but we did not, really envision that well. The thing is like how addictive all these devices they became for us, right? And also it's like how much also is our responsibility right now. And you see some company moving towards the things of limiting and give us information how to be healthier for us to use this technology and so on, right? Yeah. And this is like a bit of like the extension of this aspect of like designing and Italian design, and while doing this one is like the aspect of keeping always the experience the most delightful possible, right? The same way how a good I always say it's like to me like they're really interconnected, right? How much technology and thinking there is behind our Italian food. All the time I have to explain to my American friends that like cheese, Italian cheese is not gourmet. Italian cheese came out from very, very smart mind because we did not have a refrigerator until the late 60s, right? In our country, we were coming out from the world, and very smart people with that amount of cheese that we had figure out how to do something that is delicious. Probably not terribly healthy in some cases, right? But if you think about the ingenious part over there, just always to add, and then something that comes out probably like really from our country, right? This aspect of the being beautiful, not just from the point of view of the aesthetic, but touching probably all the senses, right? And then when I say also this one, like the orchestrating the emotion that the made in Italy always bring around is very important across every single channel, right? The digital, especially even today, right? Today, even like the physical and digital, they really blur. We don't know anymore which one is one, right? And all the things. And more important than today is exactly orchestrated design our life to move between one and the other one very, very seamlessly.
Thank you, Roberto. Well, taking stock from your comments now, your last comments, and I think that probably Salone del Mobile in June will offer many perspectives on how the design sector will deal with that. I have a first question, so maybe to start with the Q&A, I will allow myself to pose a first question. So basically, after, as you said, we come up after 2 years exactly of pandemic this March. And I think nobody can say in his right mind that this experience has not changed us, of course. There is a big debate, especially here in the Silicon Valley, about the fact that with the pandemic, probably our life has changed and the place where we spend most of our time has changed. So we will maybe spend less time in the office in the next years, although many big corporates are opening again next month probably. But anyhow, the paradigm has changed probably. And so if the office is less of a human aggregation place, as it has been in the aftermath of the Second World War and with the economic boom, thinking about Italy, how do you think, and this is of course a question also for Elena, how do you think that design will have to respond to that, to be socially sustainable, again, to go back to the concept of social sustainability?
Is it for
both? I don't know, maybe Roberto or Elena, whoever.
I can say a couple of things. I'm glad that you bring on this topic, because I think that these 2 last years change many paradigms, right? Or at least they offered the opportunity of doing this. Are we doing that? I am not sure. I am back at the office, back at school. In our case, it's very important because there's, studying design means hands-on and means interacting. So with the instructor and with tools, etc. So for us, it's very important. But I wonder if we understood, if we have taken the opportunity of rethinking of the many things that we were just doing it because we were doing it that way, right? So I see the pandemic or what has been the response to the pandemic as forcing a sort of a change of paradigms, or forcing us to reflect on many things. The other day in one of the presentations, one of my Asian student showed that he was designing a system for filtering air inside houses. Showed me the picture of, I think it was Hong Kong, but imagine any city in China before the pandemic, the sky before the pandemic and after, right? With the sky that finally was back blue, or light blue, right? And so we stopped. And the air, we were obliged to stay home, but the air outside was much cleaner. The number of travels around the globe diminished. I understand that it's been disruptive for many industries, and I'm not happy about that. At the same time, it forces us to understand what is the new balance between private and working life. What is the new balance between consumption of any goods? What is that you can do to really rethink the way you do things? And this has all to do with sustainability, both social and environmental. And among the concepts that I love the most in one of the conversations after the pandemic was this idea of every industry company trying to figure out this hybrid model. How can we make this work with giving more flexibility to families who now can go get their kids and do other stuff in their lives without disrupting productivity? And the emerging of concept like a happy performance, not just the right, the idea that we can do things radically differently, and we can do things where our own the aspect of sociality, the aspect of human interactions, the aspects of the new values can be somehow redefined. And I think that if we as human beings are not using this as an opportunity to redesign many, many things around us, we are really just had a very bad 2 years.
Yeah, on my side, Fabio, yeah, to answer you, on my side, Fabio, I say like, apart from if you move on the side, the part of the tragedy of these 2 years, like in some areas, especially in Italy, that has been like hit very, very badly, right? But at least for our industry and the design things, probably like in a selfish way that we say this year has been the most fun research and development years. Like we had the entire world stopping, and then everyone trying new different things, right? Everything that is like we saw on our side, like so much acceleration in the things that needed to be there, right? They've been there on the table. And of course, like digital and technology has been like a center part of this year. And luckily, we had these things here that just kept us to this year. Of course, like as Elena says, like, like we look at like, and I have friends working in all the industry, like really looking like, oh, wow, this like hybrid model, again, working from home and working for things, which is like, we have to rethink, so many of us redesign a space inside our home to work from home, right? There has been of like the novelty and the love of an environment to start to have this hybrid things. I feel overall like out of these things here, just like many things will stick, because it was a good as a good round. Like I see on my side also working on the other side with luxury fashion and retail. Then we start to see the signals of, after all this like probably like immersion in digital, right now we'll have probably like a really big swing back all the way down to like, again, re-meeting people, being physical, and I don't know, we start to see some, on my side, I start to see pick some signal being working in that area there of like even all the digital health, like the enormous explosion that has been around everyone buying their own equipment and doing exercise at home. And now you see a little bit of that industry, a little bit of like slowing down because like people want to go out in the sun and run. I think it's just like, again, it's always like the same things. So for ourselves, almost where I flip on one side, go full digital, right now we're also flip back in terms of like, project and try to understand. I don't think none of the two will win, but it's always the best, right? It's like, like when I was saying before, I think the opportunities almost, and I saw a lot on you mentioned before, like the young generation, the young designer, in which like for probably our generation, we still have on our mind the division between what is physical and what is digital. But for a new generation, there is no distinction, right? Almost they look at you, it's like, wow, why you separate the two, right? There is no, I mean, they grew up already with phones in their hand, right, and in their hands, and then using application, using all the things. So their mindset, especially like when we move ourselves right now in all these things that we hear, like the metaverse, the NFTs, for them is as normal as buying a pair of shoes in a retail or getting them online, something that we still have an hard time to understand or what is the value of the things, but for them is a totally natural things, right? Yeah.
Thank you to both of you. We are approaching the end of our conversation. I don't see actually for the moment any question from our audience. Probably you have been very, very insightful, so there is no need to ask anything else. I will then, for the moment, give the floor to Consul General Strozzi for some closing remarks. And thank you again, Elena and Roberto.
Sorry, Fabio, I will upset you by saying that I have two questions, one for Elena and one for Roberto. Roberto, can you tell us, you have a great experience, as you told us during our conversation, in tech, design and tech. What may I ask you, what the most innovative design that you carried out is in your job in the recent years?
Oh wow, that's a tough question. Always choosing like which one of your kids is the best, right?
Exactly.
It's like
Choose the
it's a
show
very
the last.
choose the last one. Yeah, yeah. No, it's like there are so many. Like I mean, it's like the same things. It's like a passionate all the things. Like one of the recent things that we're working on. We're working with entire group. Again, the Caring group, the Gucci, the Saint Laurent, all the things. Just try to exactly to explore what does it mean to make this hybrid experience or this fluid experience between physical and digital, right? It's like we know that like you saw also the big change in the world of luxury that has been like going to traditional that we have right now is like this collision between streetwears and luxury, and then all the need of appealing to new generation, the way they look at the world. That exactly there is a continuity, right? There is not anymore the moment of buying online or buying things. Probably like that one since has been, and this has been also in the last 2 years part of like. As a company here in Awake, we operate also an accelerator. We incubate some ideas and we try to spin off and bring product on the market. This has been part of something recently that we launched. This called Alpha. That is like a solution for all the retail to just try to have in hand something that they can improve the way they just manage what is the digital experience, the retail experience. But in some way, we also with the same aspect always like the human aspect and the connection with the people that you meet in store is always remain at the center. I really believe that one there is like, you know, like see, we always say, I remember when when Elena, we were at Domus, right? We were designing the first, or we are imagining the first experiences in e-commerce. It was saying like, even ourselves, we were critique. It's like, this is probably is a very American things because like, you know, we love going in the downtown Milano or the downtown or things because it's just that one is the experience of walking the street and window shopping because everything is beautiful. But we saw today, there's like, you know, we can create that one as a beautiful experience over there. So in some way, like I would say like that one probably like is in an area of like that requires also a lot of energy, revitalizing. Like every city right now requires like, and also that's our how to say, our responsibility also to say, it's like, you know, we saw also ourselves here in San Francisco how much the entire area downtown removing all those little stores or closing down all the little shop of the food, how much more sadness you feel in the city, right? You don't see people on the street eating a lunch and everything, and it's our responsibility at least, you know, like you could go in one direction to say, oh no, it's gonna be like millions% digital, no more anything. So, but we are physical people, right? And we have these things of trying to bring back energy in the places where we live.
Thank you, Roberto. And I have another question for Elena. Elena, you've been teaching, you've been talking about bringing our design culture, the Italian design culture, to the West Coast in San Diego, and teaching American students the Italian design culture. In your experience, what's the most interesting, let's say, feature of the American approach we can, let's say, on the way back, bring back to Italy? Is there something you learned, you know, in this bilateral experience, teaching and learning? Is there anything you can take from your students, which can be useful for us as mentality, as approach?
Good question, Sergio. I would say one thing to simplify and to make it clear: entrepreneurship. So it's what I personally learned the most here, even within the design world. I'm not talking just in general in terms of economies and cultures. I'm talking even specifically in our design culture, like in San Francisco, you guys have, like Roberto said, right? Very well said. You have the explosion of innovation and startupping and inventing models of, but if I even look here and in America in general, there is not such a fear of engaging into bringing some products to life. There is not such a thing like the fear of having to be under, you know, that in the establishment of the system before being able to really produce something on your own. So I think this is extremely important, because I think that we suffer a lot, as I think I saw in the young generation in Italy, and in general in our generation, is this lack of the lack of venturing into making things happen. That is, obviously we are in a different system in Italy, but it's a pity, because we really have that geniality to make the best things happen. So when I moved to San Diego, I tell you two little things. The two concepts that immediately surprised me were one thing called architects as developers. Many very famous architects here became developers of themselves, because they couldn't do what the beautiful architecture they wanted by depending on the developers and the inch of real estate that you have to sell. So they started with debts with the banks, building their own buildings like they wanted, and they are very successful. And the other concept is, one of the most successful companies in the hospitality sector, maybe restaurants, they design and build everything. So design and fabrication, they made an empire because of the same concept. Is like, so we need to learn this ability of reinventing our own business models and being a little bit more adventurous in creating new business or new ventures.
I thank you very much, both of you, also for these closing remarks and answers to my questions. And that was very interesting, both Roberto's and Elena's answers. And your final remarks bring me back to our core, let's say, topic. If Fabio allow me to finish up and wrap it up. The title of this Italian Design Day was Regeneration, Design and New Technologies for a Sustainable Future. I think our guest speaker, Elena and Roberto, both of them underlined and pointed out very brilliantly how sustainable is Italian design and Italian design culture. You both have been, I took notes, I did my homeworks. You both have been talking about, the idea of design culture, the idea of creating creativeness and the visioning and thinking ahead and creating something new that can elevate and higher human standards and way of living. There's nothing more about sustainability than this, I think. It's not probably direct environmental sustainability, but it has much to do with social sustainability, as Roberto and Fabio were saying before, and Elena also joined in the conversation. So I think we tackled the issue proposed for this Italian Design Day very well, sustainability and innovation. Thanks to your conversation and remarks, we underline how innovative the Italian design is and how much we still can produce. Maybe, as we were saying in our final dialogue, taking advantage and learning from some very important aspects American friends can teach us, like entrepreneurship and the willingness, the courage to create more and without too much, hesitating. We were probably braver and more courageous in the past centuries. Maybe in the last few decades, Italy has been a little bit cautious in producing innovative products and objects. So we have to take advantage of this bilateral relation with the United States and give each other the best features we have in our system, our great design culture and the entrepreneurial skills from Italy and from United States. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to Elena and Roberto for being with us and sharing your vision, your modern vision about Italian design. Thank you so much, and thank Fabio for moderating.
Thank you all, and thanks to our audience.